It's under fair use, I swear. Oh god, don't hurt me!
Doing it and doing it and doing it well. Doing it and doing it and doing it well.
Number 7. Trigun. Trigun is the story of the world's most feared criminal, Vash the Stampede. A lone criminal with a $60 billion double dollar bounty on his head. The catch is, Vash is actually a serial pacifist, meaning that he goes from town to town trying to save as many people as he can, even though the whole world is out to kill him. Alright, so I'm a little biased when it comes to this show. The thing is, if you don't count that piece of garbage Sonic X...
It's one thing to take them prisoner and threaten them, but when you actually hurt somebody, that's going too far.
You said it, Doctor!
Then Trigun was actually my first anime. Even Dragon Ball Z I watched after Trigun. I actually wound up watching it over the course of a year with my brother. I remember I would go over to his house, help him out with a couple of things, and then at night we'd just crash and watch a couple episodes of Trigun. I of course remember it fondly, and like I said, we watched 26 episode series in the course of a year, normally only about 3 at a time, so I would normally go about my days eagerly awaiting to see what would happen next in the series. However, all that said, it's kind of a moot point, because even without the bias, Trigun is still a great show. It may not look like much, and part of that is because it came out in '98, the year I was born, and had no budget whatsoever. That being said though, it manages to do some pretty cool things with its not budget, and I would definitely recommend checking it out even if you aren't into older anime. When talking about the show, one could split the show into 2 parts. The first part is a fun episodic series that most people could latch onto and have a lot of fun with. Whereas the second half is a lot darker and more story-driven. Keep in mind, when I say dark, I don't just mean it's edgy.
You're going straight to hell.
It's actually done pretty intelligently. The series constantly carries a theme of the morality of killing. Does all life matter? Does some life matter? Does no life matter? These are all mentalities embodied within the characters of Vash, Wolfwood, and Knives. Most likely, while watching the show, you'll find yourself definitely agreeing with one of them. For me, I was Vash all the way. My best friend Liam was definitely Wolfwood. And while I don't think that anybody watching the show agrees with Knives, I do have to give kudos to the creators for giving his mentality and philosophy good explanation and analysis.
That was the easiest way to stop him. You wanted to save the butterfly, right?
I didn't want to kill the spider, I wanted to save them both!
What are you talking about? Unless the spider caught the butterfly, it would die of starvation anyway. You can't save both, don't you know that?
It's not right to make that choice so easily. Both of them are living creatures, Knives, so you should...
But I'm not wrong about this, Rem. If you just keep saving the butterflies, the spiders will die.
Yes, but...
Wanting to save both is just a naive contradiction. And what would you have rather had us do? Just stand and think about it? In the meantime, while we do that, the spider eats the butterfly.
What's wrong with you, Knives? Don't you understand? I wanted to save both of them, you idiot!
Alright, one last thing. Be sure to check out both the anime and the manga on this one. The manga is definitely good enough to make this list if it wasn't that it couldn't fit into my criteria. That being that the manga doesn't have an anime adaptation, given how the one we have in the manga are so incredibly different. However, they're both definitely worth checking out. The anime has a much better beginning, and the manga has honestly one of my favorite endings ever. So yeah, this is one series that you'll definitely have to give a try. Gun. Number 6. Yu Yu Hakusho. Behold, one of the most underrated shonens ever. This series never gets mentioned, and it's really a shame because it's really good. Fortunately, the series has been getting a little bit more attention recently. It's gotten mentions from Digibro, Gigok, and Pan Pizza from Rebel Taxi?
Ooh, the Dark Tournament Stadium from Yu Yu Hakusho. That's a series that does not get brought up as much as it should. First thing I did on the stage is pick the roid-raging Toguro and beat up this anime child.
With that being said, a lot of you may not have heard of the show, so allow me to kind of explain it. So Yusuke just fucking died. And that's not a spoiler either, that happens in one of the first frames of the show. Fortunately for Yusuke, Richard Dawkins is a fucking idiot, and he finds himself in the afterlife. Yusuke performs several tasks and then comes back to life Disney style with true love's first kiss. Aww. He's brought back to life and everybody lives happily ever after. Oh wait, we're only on episode 6? How many episodes are there? Oh, the series pretty much switches genres on us when Baby Jesus tells Yusuke that they own him now and Yusuke has to do all their shit. And Yusuke's all like, okay. So he joins up with his sex-sensitive rival Kuwabara, who's pretty much the Binky Barnes of the show. And the two of them form a demon-slaying team alongside Ariel and Shadow the Hedgehog. And you guys wonder why I haven't included story descriptions so far in the countdown. Now, there are a couple reasons that Yu Yu Hakusho is so high on the list. First, there's the characters. Yu Yu Hakusho has a great cast. First, there's the main character Yusuke. Yusuke is actually one of my favorite characters. He's your typical shonen hero, except he's not. He's an arrogant prick and full-time smartass. He's also the main reason that I would recommend people to check out the dub. Justin Long's performance as Yusuke sells the show for me.
What are you waiting for? Your balls to drop?
Then there's Kuwabara, or Binky, or Dovetail Guy, I don't fucking care. He's the rival / best friend character to Yusuke, and he's also the heart of the show. Then there's Kurama, who is a guy who, despite being the kindest person on the team and overall nicest person there, is also the most deadliest and ruthless. Well, almost the most ruthless. Meet Hiei. He'll be your anti-hero / breakout character for the show. He's basically what would happen if Vegeta was a good character.
My nigga, you just got roasted, yo!
On top of all that, you've got a stellar supporting cast, all-star rogue gallery, and Botan. Now, don't get me wrong, Wendy is still best girl ever.
It's not like I lay awake at night thinking about her.
But if we're talking anime, Botan is prime waifu material. I'm normally not a sucker for accents, but damn.
You can just stand at their bedside.
What do you mean?
Human beings are more attuned to the supernatural when they're asleep, and so ghosts can talk to people in their dreams.
This is one fine lady I wouldn't mind taking to dinner and maybe even holding her hand.
The only reason that you're lonely is 'cause you're fat and gay.
The other thing that gets Yu Yu Hakusho so high on the list is honestly just the fact that it's one of the best shonen out there. It's made by the same guy who made Hunter x Hunter, or Hunter x Hunter, I don't fucking know. This guy has a knack for making series that both play to the strengths of the shonen genre and take it in a new and completely original direction. One particular thing I really like about the series is its story arc structure. So first you have the first season, obviously, which does a good job of introducing the viewer to both the characters in the show and the world the show takes place in. Then there's the Dark Tournament Saga, which I think is probably the most overrated story arc in the series. It's not bad, but it drags on way too long. The only time I was ever bored in this whole 112 episode series, every single time, was during the Dark Tournament arc. That being said though, the arc also has its moments and some of the best animation in the series, so it's still pretty good. Then you have the chapter Black Saga, which is easily one of the best story arcs I've seen in any anime. This story arc is when I went from liking Yu Yu Hakusho to fucking loving it. Then the series finishes with the Three Kings arc, which does a decent job of closing the series. The only problem with it is that it honestly felt pretty devoid of stakes, especially when compared to the arc right before it. Still, it gave the series a solid ending and was even ripped off by DBZ Battle of Gods, so yeah, that's something. Even with all of its ups and downs, Yu Yu Hakusho is a great series that I would definitely recommend, due to the fact that it's incredibly accessible, especially if you're a shonen fan. This is one Haku shonen you should not miss out on. Okay, I'll stop. Number 5. GTO, or Great Teacher Onizuka. So I guess this is the welcome to the 90s part. Once again, I know what you're thinking. Hey, yo, Tim. The fuck? Which immediately tells me that you have not seen GTO, because if you have seen it, then you know. This show is fucking amazing. That's the problem, though. If you haven't seen the show, this show looks like shit. But you're seriously gonna have to trust me on this one. Like, it's so good. And you're gonna have to take my word, because I can't sell this show. Alright, so I'm going to try to explain the plot of this show. And it's gonna sound fucking terrible, but just trust me on this one, please. Okay, so Akichi Onizuka is a 23-year-old dirtbag who decides he wants to become a teacher in order to chase high school girl Tail.
Will ye also go away?
No, don't leave! It sounds like shit, but it's not! Oh. The quality of this show hinges on one factor, and one factor alone. The main character. And despite my description, he really is the best part of the show. Onizuka is like my role model in life. He's this giant, stupid, perverted asshat, and yet somehow manages to be one of the coolest guys ever. Despite all his flaws, once he's thrown into the position of a teacher, he really takes it seriously.
It's because of teachers like you that those kids are systematically squeezed out of any safe haven that they might have ever known. If this is what you call education, I don't want to be a teacher.
Throughout the show, he affects the lives of all the cast in many different ways. Also, you have to take into consideration that this is a Japanese school, where the unorthodox is highly looked down upon.
Let me make this clear. You have orthodox, unorthodox, and then next unorthodox! You're here!
And then this asshole comes in and totally fucks shit up. And somehow, by only a couple episodes in, he becomes one of the most likable and entertaining characters I've ever seen. Everything good about the series comes from this one character. Yeah, there are other good characters in the cast, but a lot of what makes their character so great is how they're affected by Onizuka. Oh, and another thing, this is a 53-episode series, and yet somehow is never boring. Like, this isn't even a fantasy action show or anything. This is like a down-to-earth story about high school, and yet constantly one-ups itself and becomes more and more entertaining and interesting with each passing episode. It's this consistent quality that keeps both the comedy and the heartwarming moments top-notch throughout the whole series. If I had to say I had one problem with the show, it would be the last episode. Like I said before, the series constantly one-ups itself, and it just keeps getting better and better until the last episode. I don't know what happened, but the last episode is kind of a mess. I feel like if they had one more episode and then maybe worked down the climax a little bit better, it would have really paid off and been a really good ending. Hell, I've come up with a great ending for the series, and I might talk about it in a future video. What we got, though, just felt rushed and unsatisfying. And yeah, I know, I keep talking about this good thing or this bad thing, but there's only one thing you really care about right now. Why does it look like shit? The thing is, the animation for the show is exactly like its English dub. It seems terrible on the outside, but when you actually watch the show, it is nothing but an advantage to the show. I don't think that the show would have been nearly as good if it didn't look so crappy. And as for the dub, oh my god, the dub. It is probably the first thing that anybody who's seen the show will remember. It is both simultaneously one of the worst dubs ever made, and easily my favorite, and the best, maybe, I don't know. They have like 3 people working on it, and you can tell that they had a ton of fun making it. Watching the show without the dub just feels like there's something big missing. It's a big part of the show's identity, and it doesn't hurt that Steve Bloom's role as Akichi Onizuka, the main character, is easily my favorite dub role ever. This dub is amazing, and you'd be doing yourself a huge disservice to watch any other version.
You passed!
You know, there's a name for people like you. I'll give you a hint. It starts with B, and it ends with Och. I mean, look at me. I'm an angel. I got wings. Would an angel play with kinky sex horses? I don't think so.
A grown man in an angel costume might.
Honestly, GTO is a show that I would recommend to almost everyone, with one disclaimer. GTO has a lot of perverted humor, and even though it's done in a very clever and non-pandering way, it's still perverted. So if you are not into that type of humor, then why are you watching my channel? And secondly, I would probably give this one a skip. So yeah, GTO, you should totally check it out, and why don't you believe me? It's a great show, you should totally watch it. Go watch GTO!